All right, so this is a key to the worksheet on solving linear equations, and you had six equations here, and always make sure you read the directions. So you do want to show a work, and all the work needs to be in logical order and so on. Okay, so let's look at number one. So number one, we have this equation, and you want to solve each of those linear equations. So you have negative 5x plus 8 equal negative 3 times 4x plus 1. Okay, so first thing you notice when solving this linear equation is that you have parentheses. There are no fractions involved, so that's the easy kind, but I do have parentheses. So since I have parentheses, I'm going to use distributive property to get rid of those parentheses. So remember what that means. This means negative 3 times whatever those terms that are inside that parentheses. So when using the distributive property, you're going to multiply every term in here by negative 3. Okay? So we have this. We have negative 5x plus 8 equals negative 3 times 4x is a negative 12x. Negative 3 times 1 is a negative 3. Okay? So these two are equivalent. All right, now the next thing you're going to do is, first, when solving a linear equation, is you want to bring all the variables terms to one side, all the constants to the other. So you're going to use the addition and subtraction property of equality. So I'm going to go ahead and bring the variable terms to the right-hand side. So I need to get this variable term to this side. So see, this is a negative 12x, right? So adding a 12x is going to work here because negative 12x and 12x are opposites. You're going to get 0. But what you do one side, you better do to the other. So I need to see, if you put 12x here, you better put 12x on the other side as well. And it helps if you align your like terms. Okay? So now I'm going to combine like terms. Combine like terms. So negative 5x plus 12x is going to be, what's that, 7x plus 8 equal, this is 0, and you're left with negative 3. All right? Now I'm going to bring the constants to the other side. Notice I'm doing one thing at a time. So right now I'm adding 8, so the opposite is to subtract 8 from both sides. Combining like terms, negative 8 and 8 are opposite, so when you add them up you get 0. So I get 7x equal negative 3, and a negative 8 is a negative 11. And then to get x by itself, you're now going to divide both sides by that coefficient, which is 7. So remember, the opposite of multiplication is division. So now I'm using the division property of equality. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 1 times x is x. So you get x to be negative 11 sevenths. All right, so that's number 1. Okay, number 2. Let's go ahead and put number 2 here. Number 2, you have 18y minus 3 equal 8 plus 4y. So that one's actually fewer steps than this one, because this one you have parentheses, so you have to use the distributive property. Here you don't. So do notice, though, you have variable terms on both sides, constant terms on both sides. So let's go ahead and subtract 4y from both sides. I'm using the subtraction property of equality. 18y subtract 4y is going to be 14y minus 3 equal, combine like terms, that's 0. 4y, negative 4y, 0, and you're left with 8. Okay, now I want to get this variable term by itself, so right now I'm subtracting 3. The opposite is to add 3. Combine like terms, this adds up to be 0. So I get 14y equal 8 plus 3 is 11. And then divide both sides by 14. You have to show that. Divide by 14. Divide, 14. You get 14 divided by 14 is 1. 1 times y is y equal 11 14ths. Okay? Now let me just say this. If you wanted to see this right here is an improper fraction. This is proper. So the numerator is less than the denominator. That's proper. Here, this is improper. The numerator is larger. So if you want to write this as a mixed number, you can. This would be negative 1 and 4 sevenths. So 7 divided into 11 is 1 with remainder 4. Okay? All right. Okay, number 3. So number 3, you have this 5 minus 2 times 3x plus 1 equals 2x plus 7. Okay, now you got to be careful here, because what some students are going to do, they're going to say 5 subtract 2 is 3. And then distributed 3. That's incorrect. Remember, the order of operations, see, this is multiplication, right? The order of operations says you multiply first before you subtract, or before you add. So the first thing you want to do is use the distributive property. And I'm going to go ahead and distribute that -2. Think of this as -2. So it's 5 plus a -2. So think of this as -2. So I get 5. A -2 times 3x is a -6x. A -2 times a +1 is a -2 equal 2x plus 7. I can combine like terms on this side. These are constants, so I can combine those. So I got a -6x. 5 subtract 2 is 3, and that's equal to 2x plus 7. And now I can bring all the variable terms to one side, constants to the other. So let's go ahead and bring the variable terms to the left. It doesn't matter. You can bring them to the right or left. It does not matter. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. Adding 2x is not going to help because 2x plus 2x is 4x. You want to get this to be 0, so you got to subtract 2x. So now that's 0. Combine like terms here. A -6x and a -2x is a -8x plus 3 equal 0 plus 7 is 7. And then subtract 3 from both sides to get the variable term by itself. Right now I'm adding 3. The opposite is to subtract 3. Combine like terms. This is 0. I get -8x equal 7 subtract 3 is 4. Divide both sides by -8 to get x by itself. Notice -8, -8, right? -8 divided by -8 is 1. 1 times x is x equal -4/8. But don't leave your answer like this. If you do, you're not going to get full credit because you need to understand that this is reducible. So you need to write this as -1/2. Okay? So x equals -1/2. So that's the solution. So this number will make this equation a true statement. That number will make this equation a true statement. That number for x, that real number, will make this equation a true statement. All right? So notice that all these equations, so to go from here to this is that process of finding the solution. So you're doing step by step to get to that simple solution. So this simple equation right here, where x is already by itself and you get a number, that's the solution to all these these equivalent equations. All right. So let's look at number 4. So in number 4, I'm going to put number 4 here. Number 4, I have this. It looks like this. And you can read this in a couple ways. You can say the opposite of 6x minus 5 equals 2x. Or you can think of this as a -1 times 6x minus 5 equals 2x. So if you want to, you can think of this as -1 times 6x minus 5 equals 2x. And then you're going to use the distributive property. So distribute the -1. -1 times 6x is a -6x. -1 times a -5 is a +5 equals 2x. So to find the solution to this one, it's very difficult to look at this by inspection and determine what the value of x is. So you're writing equivalent equations to get to the point where you can say this is the solution. Okay, so the best way to solve this one is to bring the variable terms to the other side. It'll save you some steps. So adding 6x to both sides, combining like terms, I get 5 equals 8x, and then finally dividing both sides by 8. 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times x is x. I get x to be 5/8. So there's the solution. So you wrote equivalent equations to get to the point where you can easily see what the solution is. So x equals a number is a solution to this, to this, to this, to the original. Okay? All right, that was number 4. Okay, let's look at number 5. So number 5, we have this. Number 5, we have -2 times n minus 4 minus 12 equals 8 minus n. So -2 times n minus 4 minus 12 equals 8 minus n. All right, so notice I'm going to use a distributive property here. All right, and so -2 times n is a -2n. -2 times a -4 is a +8. Now be careful. You're only distributing -2 within what's inside the parentheses. So this stays -12 equal 8 minus n. Combining like terms, these two are like terms. So I get negative 2n, 8, and a negative 12 is a negative 4, equal 8 minus n. Okay? All right, so I'm going to bring the variable terms to the left and the constant terms to the right. So I'm going to add n to both sides now. A negative 2n plus n is a negative n minus 4 equal, this is 0, 8 and 0 is 8. Adding 4 to both sides. So what you do to one side, you do to the other. So remember, I'm trying to solve this equation, so I'm writing equivalent equations. So the solution to this is the same as the solution to this, is the same as the solution to this, is the same as the solution to this. Notice it's getting much simpler. So I get negative n equal 8 and 4 is 12. Okay, now be careful. You got to solve for n. I have negative n. Now remember what that negative n means. That negative n you can think of as negative 1 times n equal 12, right? So now you can divide by negative 1. You got to show that negative 1 there. So negative 1 divided by negative 1 is 1. 1 times n is n equal 12 divided by negative 1 is a negative 12. So you found the solution. So the solution here, this n equal negative 12 is the solution to this, to this, to this. All those are equivalent equations to this, and the original. Okay, and then finally number 6, you have 2/7 x minus 3 equal 8. Okay, now in a future lesson, you're going to learn how to solve equations that have fractions by multiplying by the LCD. But in this lesson, that was not the intent here. The intent here was this. So you're going to get the variable term by itself. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. And so when I combine like terms, I get 2/7 x equals 8 plus 3 is 11, right? Okay, so just like when we did, let me find an easier one to talk about. Just like when we did here, that negative 8x equal 4, I divided both sides by that coefficient of x. Think about what this is. So the coefficient of x here is 2/7 because this says 2/7 times x. So we're going to rewrite this over just so I can talk about it a little bit more. So this is 2/7 times x. So the coefficient of x here is 2/7. So the opposite of multiplication is division, right? So you can divide both sides by 2/7, just like I have. 2/7 divided by itself is 1. 1 times x is x. All right, now you can remember how to deal with dividing. So you're dividing fractions. 11 divided by 1, divided by 2/7. The way to divide fractions is you take the fractions in the numerator, which is 11 divided by 1, and multiplied by the reciprocal of the fraction that's in the denominator. So the reciprocal of 2/7 is 7/2. And so now when you multiply these two fractions, you cannot reduce this. So let's just go ahead and multiply the numerators and the denominators. 11 times 7 is 77. 1 times 2 is 2. So there's your solution. So x equal 77 divided by 2. If you want to write this as a mixed number, let's go ahead and see what that is. So 2 and 2, 77. So 2 into 7 is, what's that, 3? 3 times 2 is 6. Subtract, you get 1, bring down the 7. 2 into 17 is going to be 8. 8 times 2 is 16, with remainder 1. So you get 38 and 1/2. All right, and so that's it. So that is the key for the worksheet on solving linear equations.